Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I am so excited to have you all join me for our first lunchtime paint break of the new year. I wanted to keep things fresh and exciting and make sure we were really able to give an experience that everyone wanted. And we're finding some limitations with Facebook and people not able to make lives. And the biggest thing about art is we want it to be enjoyable and a respite. We don't want it to be this big pressure situation. And so we've been searching for a way to make that available to everyone in different ways. All right, so I have on my palette, I have yellow, orange, ultramarine, teal, white, and Van Dyke Brown. And I'm going to be painting a sunrise today. And I thought this was a great way to kind of start off the new year. Let's talk about new beginnings. And in a lot of ways, New Year's Day is just another day, but every day is the chance to start over again. And so I kind of wanted to be a little sappy, be a little symbolic, and really kind of embrace this chance to start over, start fresh. And for me, like I said, my big intention this year is balance. I think it's really important to make sure we're, even in your art practice, it's you want to make sure that what you're doing is continuing to give you joy. And if it's not, you need to figure out why and if you can adjust it. I'm taking some ultramarine and Van Dyke Brown and, continue to adjust it and examine why and see if you can make it better. And, this life is too short to not love what you're doing and not find fabulous ways to express yourself. So I'm just kind of taking this and I'm just blocking in the beach a little bit. This is watered down pretty well. And I'm just barely blocking it in. Hey Diane, good to see you from North Carolina. And there's really nothing like a sunrise to give us a fresh perspective on a day. Yeah, it's glad to see you were able to get started with us, Gloria. Learn to paint flower arrangements. Yes, we do some floral painting, and we definitely do floral painting in the creative circle. That's actually some of the stuff we're going to be doing. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to bring in some clouds. So I'm going to take white and just a little bit of ultramarine. Hey, Gloria, you're coming in from Waco. Oh, you're out by Magnolia. Yeah, I bet you have seen your area just explode over the last few years as everyone has been excited about Waco. I went to a wedding in Waco long before anyone really knew about it. And then the reception was in West Coma, Texas. The town was called West, just outside of Waco was the reception, and I remember it because it was a really fun reception. It was very long, and the entire town came. It was super cool. It was a great time. So I have, this is ultramarine, Van Dyke Brown, and white, and some of the clouds, I've added a little bit more white. And if you want to make it a little bit cooler or darker, you can add a little bit more Ultramarine and Dyke Brown, and that will make a darker gray. So these clouds up here are just a little bit darker, and they're kind of a little bit bluer, so you can bring in a little bit more blue if you want. And it's funny because with clouds, it always just depends on how the light is bouncing around and where it's coming from. It doesn't always 100% make logical sense, like if it were a still life with like an orange and one light source. And so for those of y'all in the Creative Circle or who aren't in the Creative Circle, we will be opening membership up this spring. We only open a couple times a year, so I would recommend that you get on our wait list if you're interested. We have a lot coming up. Our first member workshop is actually this month. Oh shoot, it's this month. I'm planning it. I'm in the middle of planning it and designing the painting, and in my mind, it's things are just going by so quickly. It's January. So now I'm going to take some orange and yellow, and I'm going to adjust it a little bit, add a little bit more yellow. And I painted the background today pink to just kind of have a little bit of fun with it. You know, I wanted to have a little bit of a contrasting color. I wanted to have little extra pops of pink to just see what it would do. And, you know, just have some fun. And that's where, like, I also just finished our painting demonstration video for this month for all of you Creative Circle people. It's snow. We're going to be painting snow in January. Can you believe it? I know that's kind of like out of left field, Shelby painting snow, but had a lot of fun with it because I've added some more yellow and some more white, and I'm just kind of coming in and having some fun with the sunlight, bringing it in, making it dynamic, playing with the lights, kind of where it's bouncing off of some of the clouds. But I really love what this month is going to be because it's a very simple composition, but it allows for us to really improvise and play and start expressing ourselves. So if you need to lighten up, add yellow and then add white. And this orange, I'm going to start actually adding just a little touch of teal to make it a little more neutral. Because if it's not right next to the sun, it very quickly grays out. So as you move away from the source of the light, it gets grayer, and that's where we add a little bit of the teal. Well, Sharon, we have the Sassy Seagulls we have the recording of it, so you can do it anytime we want, but we're going to do even more fun ones this year. I'm super excited. Our January one is, I wanted to do a robin, so we're going to be doing a robin, and I'm very excited about that. So as we move up the sky, it's going to turn, there's going to be kind of like this weird not weird. It's kind of, this area is going to be a much grayer color. So as we transition from kind of the orange color to the teal, I took some of my orange mix and I added that to teal and white. And you, like, ooh, that's a little bit more orange than I wanted. So I'm going to come in and just mix it in as best as possible. And sometimes it kind of actually turns green, and don't worry about that. It's not going to be a totally smooth, even color transition. That's okay. You have the clouds kind of interrupt the color change, and also the acrylic dries a little bit. So if you can't, you know, this isn't oil, so you're not going to get a perfect gradient. So embrace the color change and embrace the brush strokes, and that helps keep it loose. And look at how from what we've done, it already adds, you know, you get such a sense of light from this. Sure. Yes. That's a great thing to do, is give it to your BFF. But yeah, you have the replay. You can, and especially Creative Circle members, y'all get access as long as you are members. So all of the workshops that you have access to, they aren't only good for a year. You can go back and watch it and redo it, and and as I move up, I add a little bit more teal so that the sky gets bluer. It gets less yellow, it gets less gray, it gets more blue. And it's still, if I were to just put this color down by itself, it's still very light and it's still relatively gray. But it is much less so than of a gray than closer to the land. And as you move up, it gets more blue. And as it gets closer to the zenith, so the zenith is what would be the top of the sky directly above your head, it even moves from like a cerulean to, there's a little bit of purple in it, so you can even add a little bit of ultramarine. And I love when I'm doing skies like this to leave little hints of the background, because it just adds like this, it kind of makes the colors vibrate, and it makes it feel that much more energetic. You know, like this, it adds a lot of interest to the piece without needing to go in and do anything more. Like it's an easy way to make it super interesting. Terry, I was referring to when people that have purchased a workshop separately, usually we have an annual pass on that. Creative Circle members that have access to workshops, it's good for as long as you're a Creative Circle member. The Painting of the Week Club, you'll have access to the most recent 4. So all the ones that we do in a month, you'll have access to that. So I'm going to take some white with yellow and orange. And I'm going to add just a tiny bit of teal again to make it not as bright, because what we're going to be doing is coming in and kind of looking at the edges of these clouds. So we don't want it to be as bright as the sky. Well, let's see. This is a little bit brighter than the sky. It's kind of an interesting edge on this cloud. And the clouds, when they're reflecting, they can actually, this is where you kind of have to look at your reference photo and interpret and push it. Because sometimes it's a little bit more vivid and sometimes it's a little bit less, and you just kind of go back and forth. But I'm coming in and putting some edges on these clouds so there's a little bit of a transition, and you can kind of see where the light is bouncing off of them. Cloud bellies. Perfect, Kathy. Yeah, there we go. We're working on the cloud bellies right now. And it's always interesting when I mean, it's great to, this is where observing in person helps a lot. So if you are a plein air painter, this is great. But even times, a lot of times, this stage of the sky moves so quickly, you can't paint it fast enough. So what I like to do is I like to go and watch a sunset and kind of make notes. And I'll take pictures, and quite honestly, the way the Apple cameras, like if you do it on your phone or even your camera, it kind of skews the colors a little bit. And so what I like to do is take notes, and oftentimes with Apple, it makes it much more orange. Like if I remember this sunset, this was actually a really red sunset. So you can take that back later and think about that and decide to make it more pink. And that's up to you. But I always encourage observing this in person so that you know how to then go back with the photo and kind of change some things back and forth on your own. So we more or less have the sky, you know, like if you want to, you can get in here and you can adjust the clouds a little bit, but this really gives us the feeling of what we want. This really kind of makes it glow. This makes it pop. And I want to come down and just really quickly give a work on the ocean. So I'm going to do this is where I'm thinking. I'm going to do ultramarine and a little bit of Dyke Brown. And I'm going to add a little bit of teal and a little bit of white. And it's going to be kind of a grayish blue, which, you know, the sun it's hitting the ocean in the distance, as it's kind of, in the distance it's going to be much darker, and then as it moves towards us, you can see where the orange is from the sky is reflecting on the shallows. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take orange and ultramarine and white, and it's going to make this kind of light orange gray, and it's going to feel awfully gray. But when you mix it in next to the blue that you've mixed, it feels a lot lighter and a lot brighter. So don't underestimate the power of a good gray. And if you need to make it a little bit lighter and a little bit more orange, you can just add a little bit of white and a little bit of orange. and you bring that gray up into the highlights of the water. Now I'm going to bring back some of the kind of darker parts of the blue. So this is Dyke Brown, Ultramarine, and white. There might be a tiny little bit of teal in there, but this is a little bit lighter than what we had. Can add some more teal. And this will be kind of some of the lighter parts of the waves. And that really shows a lot of this water is like backlit or blocked by the clouds. And so as the sky comes up, it can actually reflect the light a lot better. So it's sunrise and sunset. They're such beautiful times of day, but you do get these quirky kind of light bounces around really weird, and you never know exactly how it's going to bounce around. And so that's where a reference photo and notes of your own really help, because then it's like, oh, which way was the light going? And that's also why having your own personal reference photos that you've built and developed, it helps you, because then you remember taking them and you remember what it was you were doing. All right, so I'm taking ultramarine and orange. And it's going to mix a kind of brownish gray. I'm going to come in, and that's going to be our sand color, because it's really, honestly, this is pretty dark. And I'll add a little bit of white and a little bit more orange. Notice that's still early time. It's not bright out. Nancy, it's good to see you. Haven't seen you in a bit. Yeah, I think the Painting of the Week Club will be a good, once again, everything we do is no pressure. And we've just had so many requests from people that want a little bit more from this experience. And so we want to be able to deliver that to you and give you guys a great experience. And then, it's, we're also able to, every week we're also it's gonna be a combination of live, and then we're gonna pull from our vault a little bit. So some of the ones we've done in the past, we're gonna bring them back up so that you can come back and try them again. All right, so I have white and yellow. So that you can come back and try them again if you haven't. Because, not everyone has had a chance to go through every single thing. And it's always good I revisit. I've probably painted this sunrise several times. It was a really good one. Okay. I'm coming in with white and yellow to kind of just accentuate where the sun is peeking through. And then I've got, that went too orange, so I'm going to come back and add a little bit of yellow and white. And I want to come back and really do some of those streaks of sunlight. So yellow and white. I keep going back and forth. That was too white. It got chalky. Sometimes what you'll find is, especially later colors, they go chalky when you add white. So I brought in more yellow. just with a soft, really get some of those rays of sun. Get that feeling of the sun bursting through the clouds. And yeah, it's, Karen, I always use 8x10 for these. You know, we keep it simple, something that we can do in a half an hour to an hour over lunch, depending on how complicated the topic is. And it's this great time to just kind of sit and experiment and spend a little bit of time together. So I keep it small, 8x10, and that allows us to not spend a ton of time on like a 16x20. When you get into much bigger canvases, then it just takes a lot longer to physically cover it with paint. And so that's why I try to keep it just a little bit smaller. This can be a study. I like using the Canva paper because if I like what I do, what I can do is I can then frame it. It's heavy duty enough mixed media paper that you can frame it. And if I don't like it, I can tear it up and throw it away. And it's not like I spent a ton of time and money in a giant canvas. So that's what these are meant to do. They're meant to be these quick studies that we can enjoy together and experiment with and, you know, try something a little bit new. My tie, the brush size is 10. I used a 10. And I used the 10 through the whole thing. I had several other ones out, but I have a habit of whatever one I start with is the one I ended with. And so I started with a 10, so I ended with a 10. Yeah, exactly. Eileen, another great thing we've had some people do is what they do since these are 8x10. People will get the protectors, the sheet protectors, and they'll store them in sheet protectors in a binder. So that's a great way to see your progress as well, if you don't want to have them in a bound sketchbook. Kathy, how do I keep my brush sharp? Well, it's a great question. I would like to say that I take care of my brushes, but y'all know that I really don't. I'm not the best brush mom. I would say one thing that I probably do that's a little bit different is not different, but the one way I do take care of them, they might sit in water for too long. I might abuse them in a lot of other ways, but one thing I don't do is when I'm washing them, I don't squish them. I'm not rough on the bristles. I'm careful to, instead of smushing the bristles when you clean them, I have one of these tubs that has like ridges in the bottom, and so I draw it over the ridges, and that helps knock the paint loose. And as I'm cleaning it, either on my rag or in the water, I make sure to draw the brush across the bottom of my wash tub, so I don't smush the bristles. If you want to keep a sharp brush, don't smush the bristles. That's the key to keeping a nice sharp brush. Even if you're like me and you abuse it pretty badly. I leave mine in water all the time. I mean, these brushes are used and abused pretty regularly, and I'll keep them for quite a long time, and they're not super expensive, but you know, just doing things like not smushing it, and when you do clean it, make sure it's fully clean of paint will help keep it a nice sharp edge versus you can see this one. This one is starting to splay. It's starting to get fuzzy. Instead of having a nice sharp point, it's kind of fuzzy. And granted, this one is this one is not wet yet. It might get a little bit sharper once it has paint on it, but it's much fuzzier. And so you'll see that when a brush gets kind of towards the end of its life, is it gets fuzzy, it won't get that nice sharp tip back to it again. So yeah, that's kind of a small basic on brush care is don't smush the bristles. So once again, I just wanted to say thank you all so much. I hope you have a happy new year, and I will see you next week. All right, bye y'all.